Hey, it's LSF here today, and today we're here to install this ANCEL MB200 input voltage battery monitor. So what is this going to do? Trying to see how the battery operates, and if I drive short distances, how much battery am I losing? So first thing is, let's install it and then see what else is there. Alright, so let's open the box and see what's inside. So there is instruction manual, and then this is the part. So let's see what's inside the part. So we can see that there's a double-sided tape, and this is the Bluetooth module. And you can see there's a black and a red cable. That's all there is. So really what you need to do is make sure that you separate the two so that they're not put together. And then what you need to do is just connect it. All right, let's connect it. So first thing it says is to connect the black. So let's disconnect the black first. So you don't need to make it too loose. All right, it's because if you make it too loose, you disconnect everything. All right, so what you do is just really shove it in. Like I already have another connection here, right? So I might as well just connect it separately. Right, so it's tighten. All right, the next thing you need to do is really just find a place where you think you can stick it onto the battery, and then you find a way to connect it to the positive, and that will create the connection. So first thing is you lift this, and you can see that this one is a little bit tougher. You can see last time when I did this was already a lot harder to do. So I will have to see how I can get this connected, but let's give it a try. I may need to bend this similar to how I bend the other one, but I have to probably make it so that it can fit both. All right, let's disconnect this. And see if I can fit it in or not. All right, so now both of them are plugged in. Hopefully this can cover it. It's a little bit tougher. Yeah, so the battery cover is getting a bit hard to put because now I have two things connected to it. I think that's fine for now, but it won't probably be a long-term solution. All right, so now this is now powered on. All I need to now do is connect, stick it on, and then we go from there. All right, so now that's connected. Everything is in place. Now let's see if I can cover it. All right, so it's still fine. The battery's still in place, intact. And now let's go to the app and see if it gets connected. So we have the app open, and what we have to do now is scan the serial number. Scan it on the serial number on the device, and then we can actually set it up. So once it's set up, you give a device name. So I called it the NX 450H Plus. If you want, you can actually put fuel consumption and fuel price. It actually does more things, telling you how much fuel you're using and all that. And then what type of battery, the acid lead battery. So once that's added, then it takes a little time for it to connect via Bluetooth. And once it's connected, it showed that I had a low charge, 66%. And the current voltage is about 12.42 volts. Temperature, so because I stuck it on the battery, the temperature of the battery is about 10 degrees Celsius. So this is a voltmeter, so I don't think it actually checks anything related to how many amps are going in and out. So based on that, I'm looking at this voltage chart, and I think that's how they got the current state of charge. So 12.41 volts is about 60%. So 12.46 is about 66%. I think that's how it does that measurement. So first things first, one thing I wanted to do was ensure that the state of charge was 100%. So what I did was I plugged in the trickle charger. All right, so you can see here in the chart, on the left side, you actually see right now it's charging, and then it's at 67%. And then on the top, you can see here, it started about 820 time range. That's when I start plugging in. That's where it's 66% on the top right image. And on the bottom is where you see the voltage. That's where the 12.6 is. And then you start seeing it going up to 13 point something. It doesn't show exactly what it is. But then around 9-ish, you start seeing that it actually got to 100%. So right now on the left image at 8:49, it was 72%. And now let's have a look at what it is when it's 100% or close enough to 100%. So you can see now at 9:20, it's at 98% and the voltage is 12.53. So you notice even on the chart, on the bottom right chart, you can see that the voltage had dropped. So meaning it actually did not, like it slowed the charging, and then you can see it gradually going up to about 11 o'clock where it's at a higher voltage and then a sudden drop down back to 13 point something. So now you see on the left image about 10 o'clock, it's at 100% and it still stays charging at 13.96 volts. So you can see around 10 o'clock, that's where you start seeing that's that 13.69 in the bottom right image. But on the top, you can start seeing it's already 100%. But it's still at 13.69, which means it is trickle charging, it's doing the maintenance mode, and that's how it actually starts to keep it at 100%. So right now you see at about 11 o'clock, it started to drop. It's at 13, like just a little bit over 13, and it's doing a slow charge. But again, the state of charge, it's already set, it's 100% already. So at this point, around 1 o'clock, you see that the battery is now at 12.75, and its state is at 100% on the top. So going back to that voltage and capacity, 12.75 is really not 100%. So that's where I start getting some confusion. I don't know how this device actually measures the state of charge, because 12.75, if you look at that, that's just like 80 something percent. All right. But then if you look at the top right chart, you would see that it continuously be like 100% until about 6:30 time frame where it dropped a little bit. So on top of that, just to get a sense, on the 28th, we actually used a trickle charger to charge about 0.062 kilowatt hour of juice actually that went into that 12 volt battery. Follow me on Instagram at LSFT videos. You can see updates on my experience with the NX 450H Plus, which may not be shown on any future videos. You can reach out to me via direct messaging if you have any questions on your Lexus. If you like this video, you can provide me feedback in the comments below, like this video, share it with your friends. This definitely will help with the YouTube algorithms. Press the subscribe button and bell icon and get notified when new videos show up. And lastly, if you want to support me further, you can provide me a super thanks, or visit my Amazon storefront before you purchase anything from Amazon, and or you can purchase products from the list on the items that I've been using with my vehicle or at home at no extra cost to you. And now let's continue with the video. So at this point, I pause this video. You can see that when I got into the car, I put the seatbelt in, and then the steering wheel came out and adjustments were made, the voltage dropped to 12.25 volts. Then when I pressed the start button, I power on the car, it actually went down to 12.07 until after that the ready light came on, and then it started to charge the 12-volt battery and it went to 14.45. And you can see now it continuously is charging. All right, so one thing that I've learned is that if you let the car idle, it will charge. And sometimes it's 13 point something volts, sometimes it's 14 something. All right, so now you can see that I'm starting to drive off. Okay, and at this time you can see that it's still 14-ish volts, so meaning it's continuously charging that 12-volt battery. And the state of charge is 84%. Okay, I'm going to now go fast forward and I'm going to drive it to a certain point and then stop, and then we'll go and examine it again. I soon arrived at destination place, and you can see that it was 84, now it's charged at 88%. So 4% was charged around 14 minutes of driving. All right, so this is the best case scenario. It's charging when you're driving, and it looks like everything is sound and good. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to power off the vehicle, and then lock the car, walk away, come back, and then drive off again. Okay, let's see what happens. Yes, let me power off the car. Okay, still 88%. All right, so I locked the car, unlocked it, came back in, still 88%. You can see that the voltage has actually dropped. So I want to start the car up again. So that you saw that there was a dip and then it came back up. Okay, so now it's continuing to charge. All right, so now I'm going to go back to where I started and see where this all lands up. Okay, so now we start back to 0, 88%, and it's charging again. Let's continue. All right, so 14 minutes coming back from Costco. So you can see that now it's at 95%, which means it is actually charging quite good. It's quite actively charging. And 95% is really close to what I've actually got when I left the house this morning. So previously we saw that while driving the vehicle, it could charge the 12-volt battery, but that is not always the case. Okay? In fact, many times that I've observed, the car will not charge that 12-volt battery while driving. The car's computer is managing this, and I can't figure out why and exactly when does it charge and when does it not. So here you can see that the car is at 58% state of charge. While driving, you can see that it started off charging and there is some fluctuation. It goes up and down a little bit, but then it stops charging and only maintains 12.7-ish volts, and it will maintain the 12-volt battery while I'm driving. So when you see this, even at 58% state of charge, the car's computer does not charge the 12-volt battery, and I'm going to increase the speed of this so that you can actually see at further down the road, does it charge or does it not? And you notice that the first part of this video was already accelerated, and now it's going to accelerate even faster. So right now, it's already 13 minutes in the drive, and it's still 58%. The car did not charge that 12-volt battery at all. And I am approaching home at this point, and sorry for doing mosaic the screen, so I don't want to disclose exactly where I live. But when you look at it, you can see that it will start to slowly charge. So I'm almost at home, and when I actually approach my driveway, it started to charge. And I don't know, is it because the car's in a tilt, and at a tilt it will start charging, because I've observed every single time I turn into my driveway, it will start charging for whatever reason. I really don't know why, but you can see now it started to increase, and now it's at 13.6, 14, and I'm at 0. I'm not driving anymore, but you can see that I'm still on D, and it's charging. It's at 14.4. For whatever reason, it did that. But over the 13 minutes of driving, it did not charge a single voltage into the car. So you can see that now, after that charge, it started to slow down into like 13-ish. Okay, and now it stopped charging. Isn't that funny, right? I really don't know how the computer is managing this, but that's the behavior that I've observed, and it's not just one time. It seems like every single time that happens. All right, so now we're back down to 12.7. It's just in maintenance mode, and it's just powering all the 12-volt accessories. So now I've opened my garage and I want to drive in. Okay, so now driving in, you would see that it's still 12.8. Nothing has changed, and the car continues to be driving the same 12.8 volts. All right, so after that, when I actually go into park, you would then notice that it will change. I just went back, I went to reverse just to check if my car's all the way into the garage. So then I know that when we go to reverse, it will peak and it'll start charging again. All right, so now I'm in park, and you can see that it's running at 13.5 volts. So it's charging. And every single time, that's how it behaves. So idling definitely does charge the battery. So you may ask, all I demoed were short drives, 10-15 minute drives. So now I'm actually going to show you a long drive. So about 10:47, okay? This is when I approximately started driving for a 2-hour and 13-minute drive, 188.1 kilometers, and at destination it's about 1240. All right, so 5.6 liters per 100 is not too bad. Drove 2 hours and 13 minutes and 188.1 kilometers, and the EV range ratio was about 37%. So a lot of gas driving. All right, so what were the results? So you can see here it's about 14 volts, and then I was backing out, and then it actually started driving. You can see about 12.7, 12.8 volts roughly around that time frame, about the 2 hours and 13 minutes. And then you can see that peak that goes up. That's when I backed into the parking spot. But if you look at it, it's about 78%, 76% is around what time that I actually were going on the 2-hour drive. And at the end, it's about 80, 81%. Okay, so definitely it did not lose any voltage. It actually gained about 2%, even at 12.8, even though it doesn't say that it's charging, but it did charge 2% on the battery. But think about it, how often do you drive 2 hours? and driving 188 kilometers, and you've only gained 2% on the 12-volt battery, I think that's a bit too little, right? Alright, so I'm in my garage right now, 86%. It's actually charging. It's at 13.52 volts. It's not going to the 14. I don't know, is it because it's getting a bit closer to 100%, so it's doing a slower charge. And right now, my EV range is 46 kilometers. Okay, so I'm going to let this run. Right now, I've actually been running for 15 minutes. And I'm at 86%. All right, so at this point I'm just going to let it run and then look at it maybe around half an hour to see where it stands, and I'll figure out if I want to power it off or just let it run. All right, so it's about 22 minutes and I'm back at the car, and the state of charge right now is 99%. It's still running at 13.52 volts, and it's actually gained about 13% of charge in the 22 minutes. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go back into the car and then look at the EV range and see how much has been lost. And then now you can see it actually went to 100%. So with that being said, now let's go and open the door and see where are we. All right, so right now, 38 minutes, EV range, back to, now I'm at 45. So we've lost 1 kilometer of EV range from 86% to 99% or 100% on the 12-volt battery. So from the previous clips, you can see that just leaving the car on idle, it will allow the car to charge that 12-volt battery. 22 minutes, it gained 13% state of charge. So at least on the NX 450h Plus, it allows us to keep the car running in EV mode for 1 hour, and it will auto shut off the vehicle after 1 hour of idle. I think there are a few reasons why it does that. The car actually could have no noise, so you don't even know if you powered it off or not, and this will ensure that you conserve the battery and don't drain the full battery itself. But then we could also use this to charge up the battery as well. So right now in this video, you would notice that the car has a beeping sound. And that's the reason why, is because I've actually left the car on for over almost an hour. And this is probably like the last 10 minutes. It starts telling you that I am going to power up, I'm going to power off. Why am I actually recording this? Well, I found something very interesting, because I actually went and did this like an hour earlier, but then it did charge my battery to 100%. But shortly after, it actually went back to 69%. Why is that? So you see this chart, it actually started around 72%, and I left the car in the garage for 1 hour, so 8:25 roughly, and then when you go all the way, you can actually see that it continues to go up to 9:21, it went to 100%. So at 100%, then really, if you start seeing that dip, that is where the car turned off itself. But you can see that there's a drastic drain from like 9:40 time frame to 10:05, from 100% to 69%. And you can see the second hump is where I saw, oh, how come I lost 69%? So I went back out and then I figured, oh, that's why. So then I started the car and then I recorded this video just trying to show you what happens after that 1 hour and why does it drag from 100 to 69%. So the folks who use this method, make sure you go back to your car once it auto shuts off, or shut it off before the 1 hour. All right, so let's see why this happens. And if you look at here, it just continues slowly drains to 97 and then it goes to 93, which seems to be normal drain because I do have a dash cam and all that. So you continue to hear the beep until it starts to power off. Okay, so it's going to power off very soon. it powered off, but you also notice that the headlights are not turning off. So what I did was I tried to lock the car. And typically 15 seconds, I think I set it to 7.5 too, that the headlights will turn off by itself. But right now it's like 20 something seconds and it still hasn't turned off. So it's way past 15 seconds and the headlights have not turned off. So you can see, very short time, it's already dropped 2%. Well, there's locking, unlocking, and also whatever. But if you left it for 20 minutes where I think it does the auto shut off, that would actually drain from 100% to 69%. So make sure that you actually go and turn off the car. If not, this could happen. And I've actually seen this happen a few times. So it is key, if you're going to idle the car, make sure that the headlights are turned off. If not, you just wasted your 1 hour. Alright, so I'm at 100% right now. And my state of charge of my car is at 77%. So what I'm going to do is now power it off. I will plug in the power cord and not charge it. See if the drain actually occurs or not. So I'm going to now plug this in. It's not going to charge. And then I'll just let it sit for probably an hour or two and then see what state of charge we're talking about. Okay, so now you can see that it actually blinks, but it's actually not going to charge. All right. So after plugging in, we already see that it dropped from 100 to 98%. You can see on the bottom left, 77% on my traction battery. And then on the top right, we see that the voltage is 12.61 and it's 98%. Okay, and you can see that the chart will continue to go down. Let's see what happens after an hour. So now at 10:30, so 10:30, it's been an hour and the percentage is now 97, so it dropped another 1%. And you can see that the voltage is still 12.75. So it doesn't look like there was that big of an impact. Because originally we were saying that if you kept your charger in, it will actually chew up some of your 12 volt juice. But from what I'm seeing here, it's not. But I'm not sure. And it's good to not be sure because after 1.5 hours after that, it dropped from 97% to 71%. And that's with the plug plugged in. So definitely we're seeing that drain, but it's not like immediate. It seems like it needed an hour and a half or about an hour before it actually started to drain. So the next thing is, okay, let's start charging the traction battery. All right. And we all think that when we charge the traction battery, there is a slow voltage that will charge the 12 volt battery during that time. All right, so with that, let's look at what we see here. So from starting charge to ending charge at 4:39, the percentage state of charge was still 71% on the 12 volt battery. And when you look at it, the voltage wise, it's about 12.62 volts to 12.51 volts. And if you look at the line, it just seems to be consistent at 12.6, 12.5, which means it did probably give some power because it didn't really reduce any of the voltage or any of the state of charge, but it did not charge it. So I did some research and I was looking at, and there's another YouTuber who actually has a RAV4 Prime. So what he stated, and I haven't validated that, and that is if you're charging and it needs to warm up, so it needs to turn on the heat to warm up the battery, that's when the 12-volt battery will get charged. And if not, it will not charge. You can see it. It's 7171, and this is really roughly about 4.5 hours. Nothing has changed. 71%. So this is a level 1 charger. So maybe level 2 will do better. Well, I'll be trying that as well. So just to show, before I go on to the level 2, you can see here at 4:39 it finished charging and the voltage has dropped, and around like 11:30ish is when it started to go to 1392 watts. So this is actually monitoring how much power that the car was pulling from the plug. So you can see that it's consistently charging throughout the 4.5 hours until around like 4ish, that's when it slowly charged, and then it finished charging to 100%. So level 2 charging. So we're going to see how does level 2 charging impact the 12-volt battery. So you can see here the chart, it actually now starts peaking to 14 volts. This is because I'm backing into the charging location, and unfortunately I did not record this video during that time because I couldn't be driving and recording at the same time. But at this point you can see that I backed in and I'm getting ready to actually get to the charging station and start charging. So I want to make this go faster, and then we'll talk about it when it dips. All right, so now you see that it started to dip, and that's when I actually start to power down the vehicle. So once I power off the vehicle, I'm going to go and now set up the charging station so that I can actually charge. So you can see that it's now back at 12.51 volts. And I'm going to now, again, fast forward until we start seeing the charging when it starts charging. So now you can see that it's going to start dipping. So that's when it actually starts to charge. So now 12.25 volts, dips a little bit, goes back to 12.28, still red, and now it's at 12.54. And then you should start seeing it going up. So at 12.8 or 6 range, it really fluctuates at this point because it's trying to initiate the charge. And you can start seeing 12.9, 13. So you can start seeing, okay, now it is going to start feeding more, but it doesn't say that it's enough to charge the vehicle. So you can see now it's 12.7 and it fluctuates. So it's going up and down, trying to establish the charge. So the car is starting to start charging, and then after that, we will start looking at a more normalized voltage. So do make a note, it's 87% state of charge. Okay, now we're going to fast forward. Alright, so this experiment using level 2 charging, it seems to be consistent. So 12.65, it seems to maintain that voltage, and the state of charge is actually decreased from when I start, because probably I drove a short distance to this location to get this level 2 charge. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug and then see what happens. Okay, so right now, again, 85% state of charge, 12.65 volts. All right, so I'm going to unlock. So it will unlock the charger port, and then I can go out and unplug. So you can see here, when the door was open, the voltage immediately dropped. Right, so unplug. So after unplugging, you would actually notice that the voltage has continuously flattened to 12.3839 range. I would say thank you to Toyota, Richmond Hill Toyota, sponsored this charging. Alright, so let's get back to the car. So voltage has now dropped to 12.32. Okay, let me start the car now. Alright, we're back to 14.14. So you can see the voltage dropped. And now it's actually starting to charge when I'm on idle. Alright, so now let's look at the mobile app. So I'm at 83%, 12.51 volts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now switch over to the Lexus app and see when I go and do a refresh and get information about the car. So now it sees it loads it, and I'm going to go to refresh, try to get the most up-to-date information. I go to the status and get a refresh on the status, and some people will say this thing sucks because sometimes it reloads and it doesn't reload. So you can see that the tire pressure of information has been since 9 a.m. But this is like 1 p.m. already. So I do another refresh just to make sure that everything is good. And then I go to the health and just wanted to see how all these things are loaded and what does that impact to the 12-volt battery. So while we wait for this to load, we're going to be able to see what percentage of the battery after this is all loaded. All right, so I think I'm going to be flipping back to the app. All right, so now let me see. Okay, flip back to the app. So 83 dropped to 82. And then I think it drops another 1%. So you can see that just doing a few refreshes changes from 83% to 81%. So the same day, I went and plugged in the charger. Okay, so you see it right now it's charging 75%, 5 hours and 40 minutes to charge. I go over it, now it's 79%. From 81, it's 79. You can see that it went up, and then went down in the voltage, and it went up, and then it started to maintain a higher voltage. So right now, it's charging, and you can see that it's 79%, and it continues to become 12.6 roughly volts. So while charging, I've fiddled around with it, and you can see that I'm accelerating this. I'm trying to reload, refresh to see what the status of the charge is. And after that, just playing around with it continuously, I'm still getting the same voltage, so 79%. So while charging, you can use the app, and I don't think it'll drain any of the 12-volt battery. So 4 hours later after charging, so you see now it's 96% and the state of charge is 78%. So there's 1% dip, but it's not that significant. So before I give my final thoughts, I just wanted to show, like, I have 2 voltmeters. One's plugged into the car with 12 volts and one is connected to the 12-volt battery. So you can see that there's about a discrepancy about 0.2 volts. I would say I think that is normal. As long as your plug inside the car provides 12 volts, that would be good. So this is just where you can see a discrepancy between the two. And I just want to make sure that you're aware that there is this discrepancy. All right, so before I go with my final thoughts, I'm going to go to the website of the ANCEL BM200 just to give a little bit more background. So this is the ANCEL BM200 website. It's a Bluetooth battery monitor. It can do cranking tests, charging tests, voltage tests, abnormal alarm, and also there's a short circuit protection. So in my car, there is a dash cam that is dedicated, which is plugged in all the time. So meaning there's parking mode. So when the car is off, that dash cam is still powered and it's a low voltage, like it doesn't use that much. But again, that will drive some of the drainage of the 12-volt battery. When I install this Bluetooth battery monitor, it is also the same, okay? So definitely adding this will also add on top to the load so that you may actually see that if I unplug this, I may get a little bit better result. Like it will not draw down the power as much as it shows on those charts. So when you look at it, the average working current is about 1.5 milliamps. So it's a very slow usage, and I think that would be fine to have running. And then you're looking at the voltage accuracy, it's a plus and minus 0.03 volts. Okay? And I'm not an electrical engineer, so I don't know the facts of every single thing about batteries, and unfortunately, this does not read the number of amps as well. It only gives you the voltage, so I don't know how accurate this is, but this is all the observations I've seen when I have this installed, and at least I know that when it says it's charging, but really the state of charge, I don't know. Using the trickle charger, it does match the trickle charger's output. So when the trickle charger stops, the state of charge is 100%. That's one good thing. But other than that, anybody who actually has more knowledge about these 12-volt batteries and how these things operate, please leave in the comments below. Because again, I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know all the details of how this works. But definitely I can tell you that there is a draw with this device and the dash cam, so that we'll see over time there is a draw. But I also a few things I want to make note of. And if you're interested in installing this on your car, I think it's a good thing to know the percentage so that you don't get stranded. But then there is something I would say. Once you have that information, you would look at it and say, oh, you freak out when you see it's 50% or when it's red and it says it needs charging. So, but then it gives you the chance to say, oh, I see it's 50 something percent. I should actually just let the car idle or plug in my trickle charger. So there's definitely some pros and cons on this. But if you're the type that once you see it's 50 something and you freak out, I would say just don't bother because you don't want to know, and then it becomes stress rather than actually just giving you information. I also noticed that they offer a different type of BM200 and they call it the Pro, which includes that module that can show you display the information that it connects with the device. So then you don't need to use your phone to actually to see it. You can put that on your dash and you can actually continuously see and monitor the voltage, and it'll be great. But again, do you need to know it all the time? I really don't know. And really for myself, I don't know if I'll take this off or not. It's just great to have information, but at this point, I think it's given me a lot of information, and I'll summarize that information. And by the way, I'm not here to sell you these products. I just use these products to give you the information, and hopefully you find this useful. All right, so now let's summarize what I've observed during the time owning this thing and seeing the voltage information. So the car does charge the 12-volt battery, but it's randomly. Sometimes it will charge it while you're driving, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's really related to the car management. It probably doesn't want to charge the battery to 100% all the time. So if you're lucky, it charges. If you're not lucky, then it doesn't charge. And I think that actually answers a lot of the reasons why people are having a lot of issues. Because unlike gas cars where they have an alternator, every single time the alternator will charge that 12-volt battery. But then you don't need the 12-volt battery to really start the vehicle as much. It's only used to start the DC to DC converter and the inverter, so that's all it really needs to do. So it doesn't need to be charged all the time. So keeping the charger cable plugged in will drain the 12-volt battery. From the observation, it won't drain it immediately, but over time it will start draining. And it drains significantly. So keeping the car idle, you don't need to idle for an hour. Even just 15 minutes or half an hour, it will actually help maintain the car and actually be able to charge that 12-volt battery. Keep in mind that people who have the 450h Plus, the engine doesn't need to start, so you're not wasting a lot of gas or anything, but you are going to lose some EV range. But that is one benefit of the plug-in hybrid, you can actually use that to charge that 12-watt battery, and it seems 15 to 20 minutes is good enough. You don't need to do a full hour. And if you really idle for an hour, you must monitor your car, because what you've seen is if you don't, it will actually start draining it because your headlights won't turn off for at least 20 minutes. Driving longer distances, it will charge the 12 volts, but I don't think it charges enough. Like driving 2 hours and you only get 2% more, I don't know if that's really gives you much benefit or not. Driving in hybrid, having the gas engine on, or just purely running EV, there's totally no difference. The voltage is exactly the same. So there's no difference. So you don't need to go back to the old days where, oh, the gas engine has to run to charge the 12-watt battery. Nope, there's no alternator, and the computer is doing whatever it does. So no difference between those modes. So if you walk by with your keys right beside your car and the car lights up, it will drop your state of charge. So if you don't need to, don't bring your keys close to your car. It will actually drop a few percentages. Checking out your Lexus app, looking at the status of your car, that also drops the state of charge a percent or two. If you're going to go on vacation, I would highly suggest you trickle charge. I really don't know how long you can not drive the car, and if the car will go into a certain state after like a few days not driving, and then it will preserve the battery as much as possible. But over what I've seen, I've been driving my car every day, so it's hard to see. But if you do look at it, if it does drain like 1 or 2% per day, over time, you'll drag a lot. But if you trickle charge 100% and let it sit, maybe it can last for weeks. I really don't know. I think this is one of the longest videos I've ever produced, and I was considering producing 2 videos, break it apart, but I think I wanted to have the full message in one video. So I may have missed some stuff, and if you have questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. And if you want me to test other things, let me know too, so at least I can observe more about the voltage and all that. But again, I don't know how accurate this is, but it's definitely something we can all reference and hopefully not have battery problems going forward. And I hope that Lexus actually comes and watches this video and see, is this how it should operate? Or should it actually charge that 12-volt battery more while I'm driving? I hope that you found that this video was informative, and until next video, drive safely. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please comment, like, share this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to my channel and press that bell icon to get notified when new videos are posted. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can provide me a super thanks. And until next time, cheers.